linear inequalities, which if you, like I said with the ed puzzle yesterday, hopefully you have a pretty good idea of how this works, right? We graph it, and then we shape to show all the possible solutions. Yes.
Are we going to update the table format?
If we have time, I have updated mine, so I'm ready for you guys, but we'll see if we have time.
The internet isn't working.
That's okay. You don't need that for this
I don't
stuff.
know why it was like on Safari it didn't work.
I don't know. Good question. Okay. So we're going to start with one variable inequalities. Or there's only an X or only a Y. So the first one is going to be X is greater than or equal to -4. So I'm going to take one of my graphs and I'm going to glue it onto my paper. I'm going to glue it a little bit over the pink line. So the way this works, yes.
On the first bullet point, is
It's a because.
Okay.
So when we have a variable, one variable inequality, that tells us that all x values are going to be greater than or equal to -4. So that means that we're going to have a vertical line at -4. It's solid because if you remember from the ed puzzle yesterday, if it is greater than or equal to or less than or equal to, you need a solid line on your graph. One of the things the video told you was to shade up or down, which is kind of hard to do when you have a vertical line. So at the end of the video, they gave you pointers of just picking an ordered pair to see if it works. If it does, you shade towards that ordered pair. In this scenario, we're just going to put 0 because we only have a single coordinate. We don't have a y. 0 is greater than or equal to -4. I substituted it in here for x, so that means that all of my values this way will work, including -4. I don't think the next one's going to fit on here. I'm going to go to the next page. Is anybody still copying this? Question.
So could we also do it like when we do it on the number line when we put inequalities, if the symbol is going that way, can we shade that way, or does that not always work?
That should work as well. Yep.
Okay.
Okay, so now we're ready for example 2. Okay, so if all x values make it a vertical line, then of course all y values would make it a horizontal line. We had to do a dashed line because it's a less than symbol. It does not indicate that 2 could be a solution. Again, I substituted 0 to see if it works. 0 is less than 2, so yes, that works. So I shaded towards 0, 0. Any questions about one variable? Inequalities. I'm sorry? What was that, Lux?
Can I see the other picture?
All right, I'm actually going to go on to a third page now because now we're going to do 2 variables. I want it to be separate. Okay, so clearly this one's different because now we have an x and a y, hence the name 2 variables, right? And we want to graph this, but if you recall from the Ed puzzle, what form does it need to be in before we can graph it? What form was every inequality in before the person graphed it? What's it called, Logan? Slope-intercept, right? Guys okay? Just took a quiz on it yesterday, right? Slope-intercept? Okay. Cool, cool. So the first thing I need to do is rearrange the inequality into slope-intercept form. Okay, sir. So when I add the x to the other side, I sneak it up there in front of the 2. So now I have 2y is greater than x plus 2. I'm going to divide by 2. Y is greater than 1/2 x plus 1.
What's underlined at the top?
2 variable inequalities. Yep. So I have a slope. What's my slope of this inequality? 1/2. I have a y-intercept. What's my y-intercept? 0, 1. So I'm going to get out my third graph. I'm going to glue it kind of right here, off to the side a little bit. First thing I'm going to do is plot the y-intercept and use the slope to create 3 more points. Then I have to ask myself, what kind of line do I have? Solid or dashed? Well, this is going to be a dashed line because it's just greater than. I know sometimes it's hard to tell on a graph, but I mean, it should be pretty obvious if it's dashed or solid. And then, because it's greater than, it's going to be above the line, right? But for those of us that are like, I don't know if I'm going to remember that, you can still use the same strategy. You can substitute. And I would always advise 0, 0 because those numbers are easy to work with. Into the inequality. To see if it works. I know in the video he used a lot of different random ordered pairs. Sometimes that just overcomplicates it, right? So if my inequality is y is greater than 1/2 x plus 1, if I put 0 in for y and 0 in for x, well, those are easy to solve, right? Is 0 greater than 1?
No.
Nope. Sure isn't. So I'm going to shade away from 0, 0. Right? Which is above the line, but again, sometimes we can't, some of us aren't going to remember that rule. So you have to have a backup plan. I always have students ask, well, what if the line goes through 0? Well, then choose 1, 1 or 2, 2, something simple. Don't get crazy. You don't need to overcomplicate it, right? Smarter, not harder. Okay. You should have 2 more graphs. Does everybody have 2 more graphs?
I'm 3.
Okay. If you have an extra, I mean, you can just put it back up on the counter, but everybody needs at least 2. Hayden, do you have 2? You just stretching?
Does anybody need it?
Pretty good? All right, thank you.
Shading my graph.
Sure can. Okay, so let's go ahead and do this one. So this is not in slope-intercept form. So I'm going to have to rearrange again. I'm going to subtract 3x from both sides. Now I have negative y is greater than or equal to negative 3x plus 5. I can't have a negative y, right? I can't do that. That's not mathematically okay. So what is the trick to get rid of the negative y? MJ?
Divide by 1.
Close. Divide by negative 1. But what's the catch when you divide by negatives with any kind of inequality? Jackson? Well, you have to do all of them, but there's a catch specifically with inequalities. Nolan? I got to flip the sign. Good. Negative 1, negative 1, negative 1. So now I have y is less than or equal to 3x minus 5. Bless you. Thank you. I've got to flip the sign because I divided by that negative 1. So write yourself a little note so you remember why it happened. That's what we were working on today in pre-algebra. Flipping the sign. So I'm going to identify my slope and my y-intercept. Plot my y-intercept, use my slope. Excuse me. 0, negative 5. Get 3 more points. Am I going to have a solid or a dashed line? Solid, because it can equal those numbers. And this is, again, one of those where you might be like, what is above? What is below? Well, it is going to be shaded below, which some of us are like, I don't trust myself left or right. So again, you can always put 0, 0 in to see if it works. So y is less than or equal to 3x minus 5. 0 less than or equal to 3 times 0 minus 5. Is 0 less than or equal to negative 5? Nope.
Do we have to do that?
You do not?
Okay.
Nope. This is just a backup plan. In case you're like, I don't know where to shade it, this is the way to determine it without hesitation. By putting, because what I'm doing is I'm looking at this point here. Does this point work for this inequality? No, because when I get to the end, 0 is not less than negative 5. So that means that this cannot be a solution. So I'm only going to color in the areas that would be a solution. Remember in the video, they talked about all those points that now are solutions when you're doing inequalities. So that's why we shade. Right? CC, you with me?
What's the way you know how to shade it? Like,
So
without
this,
that thing?
without that thing, the guy just said above or below. But if it's not an obvious slant, like this could be left or right, not necessarily above or below. So if you're not like sure and you're like, I don't know which one would be, I'm just going to do this to make sure.
Okay.
Yep. Right, so this didn't work, right?
Yeah.
So that means I'm not going to shade where the point 0, 0 is, because it's not going to be a solution.
So you shade wherever the solution is going to be.
I shade where the ordered pairs could work. So if I put in 3, 0, okay, well then I would get, is 0 less than or equal to 4? Sure is.
Oh, so you put 3 times 3, and that'd be 9 minus 5, and then 5. No.
So then is 0 less than 4?
Okay.
It is. So that's how I know that's a solution.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Yep. You're welcome. Okay, you guys are going to do this one by yourself.
Can I not shade until I know if it's right or wrong?
Sure. It's a great strategy. So I'm going to freeze my screen. You're going to do this one all by yourself. Addie had a good idea. She doesn't want to shade until she sees that she shaded it, would have done it correctly. That's not a bad idea. It's totally up to you.
Sorry, guys. I'm having too much fun.
You might not be able to get 4 points on the graph, and that's okay. But you can do 3. That just turns into 1/4 x.
Yeah. I don't know if I'm doing it right now. 1/4 is that. Yeah. And you can only pull 3. And it would be a draw. I'm not doing it online. Okay, and then to be shaded by gold.
I don't want to.
Yeah. Wait, what do you mean? No, I thought you meant like a mix.
our answers?
Oh shoot, I didn't know. I forgot this was you. I know, I always. Oh yeah.
Because it's greater than, also if I put a 0, 0 in, 0 is greater than -3. So I'm going to go towards that because that ordered pair is going to be a solution.
It's actually better than you think.
I've heard the opposite. The only other one. I know the only thing.